Okay, so you know what this is, you know what channel it is, you know what's going on. We're going to get right into it. So the discussion next is going to be surrounding the criminals themselves, and not in specifics. We know what's going on. We know who it is. It involves understanding the byproducts of a criminal lifestyle. Now, innocence is always presumed until you're deemed guilty. If you've been deemed guilty before, or you have some type of speculation around your character, it's always hard to produce evidence enough to put you in a place where people aren't looking at you as such. That's what prosecution always details and counts on. They count on a person being unable to defend themselves, in a sense where your knowledge and your presence as a previous criminal entity is now being in question because of what was disclosed about you and your lifestyle and how you live. These are all byproducts and reasons people are believing these men are guilty in the first place. That's why, unless you basically stood a defense against cases before, or you weren't deemed guilty, or you were deemed guilty and not innocent in the first place, it's hard to kind of put a tag on you that you weren't responsible for something. This is very, let's say, subjective, and it's very conclusive to the fact that you're going to be placed at a higher rate of being accused of things, and it's going to be hard to defend against things said about you because of these factors. These are all remnants of your past life, and the fact that you men even showed up to the scene is going to play against you in a very heavy way. Now, they should notice, and that's probably why Trayvon Newsom lawyered up so fast and accepted the plot, even if he did speak to the mastermind. They're going to look at you as the criminal that they've always had you as. And this is why proving your innocence is so difficult, let alone being able to stand a chance against such charges. These charges that these men are being placed against are serious, as well as their previous life that were felonies. These things weren't simple crimes that they committed, let alone violent crimes are weighing heavy in society. So the fact that they're holding violent crimes against you, it's nothing new. It's nothing that they're new to. But at the same time, your charges and everything you get hit with is going to be so much heavier because they could not deem you innocent in the first place. That is why I perceive these men were used for this crime, let alone it's hard for these men to actually find themselves being freed. See, I told you, getting a free lawyer can depend on whether people fight for your freedom or they fight just to defend you. That's a huge difference. The way that they're going to defend you, the weight they place on your case, all these things play a part of what's going on. Now, what my premonition and understanding around this case would be is that these men weren't new to violence. They weren't new to drama. They weren't, let's say, virgins to this type of issue. So the fact that they had a lot of speculation around how they act in situations and how they behave when they're being accused, all these things are going to play a part, especially your character and who you actually are. Now, this is nothing weighing on how they're going to take the case, more so than rather whether or not they're going to be persecuted for the case. This is a normal activity that's done by authorities to make sure that you carry whatever they're taking. See, to randomly find something in Michael Boatwright's grandmother's car would have been hard to believe if he's never been prosecuted. But along with the indictment and the way he's handling it, it made it easy for them to try and go in the car and even find things to place against you if that was the case, allegedly. Now, we got to keep in mind that when these type of things are going on, they just build and build off of the foundation you set. So these guys have a foundation of felonious activity, which allows these criminals to stand out as criminals regardless if they committed a crime or not. Evidence, fingerprints, circumstantial evidence such as that is definitely going to be a huge factor, although an investigation can be halfway and still stand because they committed crimes in their life of this sort. So the lifestyles they lived, could it be karma catching up with them? Because the judgment is here. They already indicted you guys and they're saying you committed these crimes even though you may not have. Now that's fine and that's good and well, but that's why you should have lawyered up from the beginning. So that's part of the reason and the social evidence behind why I say this mastermind's a pro at heart, because he knew what these guys probably did in the past. He knew that they bragged about different crimes they committed, even though they probably never have been caught, or allegedly never have been caught. But at the same time, they also knew that you guys would fold under pressure. Folding under pressure is going to occur to someone. Someone's going to fold under pressure because of the time period that they'll be able to put you away versus what you're being accused of. Someone has to go down for a murder. Regardless of who was behind anything, they're willing to let that information slip out of your mouth or not even prosecute it because they have 4 previous offenders. This assures them an arrest in some way, shape, or form, and being certain they're going to get an arrest is more important to the system than going looking for, let's say, an invisible criminal. So they're willing to wait years if they have to in order to make sure you go down now publicly. They've been parading your face around. They know you probably are in a situation where you don't have the money to retain some type of law or retain some type of defense that could stand in your behalf, because you never were a friend of the system. And that's something you got to keep in mind as a criminal. Even though you got the money, though you can get the defense, they're going to look at your character. Your character plays a huge part in everything. And that's why most criminals can never shake off the crime and criminal mentality that they've developed over time. These are all factors that's going to play a part of who you become to the jury, who you become to the prosecution. They're not willing to stand for you or give the best deals that they would to someone who would be less likely to commit these crimes. Now, that's why I said you guys got to change your lifestyle. That's why I mentioned even if you do get free, Trayvon Newsom, your lifestyle is going to be very dependent on whether or not they're going to target you. Because remember, I told you, once you're convicted and you come out, and when you're on parole, you lose constitutional rights. So you could sneeze wrong and they have the right to do certain things to you. That is why keeping credibility is going to be a key factor in you being able to slide out of this situation or stand in some way, shape, or form. If you admit to knowing any predisposed knowledge, as I quoted, you're going to be held at that standard. Predisposed knowledge is a very strong factor in which they look at, and they're able to say, listen, these guys have committed crimes such as this before. These guys were involved in this. They bragged on that. That's why social media is not for everything. And it's not a way and means you want to get your clout up. You want to get your clout up by being respected. And a lot of people are hard to be respected. It's hard to respect someone if they have previous felonies, they have a lot of bragging of cash, and you're not that normal person that can see that has created a business or develop some type of standard for yourself to grow. These are very, let's say, detrimental reasons for them to treat you how they do. And one of the things that you got to keep in mind is that these are going to be very key parts to how they're going to place people in the hot seat to be prosecuted. They don't have to do much work to put these guys away. They got to do a lot of work to find out who was actually involved in something if there's no text messages or any evidence that leads to factors that this person could have been in communication at this time. And this is something that seems to hold people down a lot. And that's why I'm telling you guys, it's very important that your lifestyle change and your lifestyle standards are reprimanded, not only by your guilt, if you have guilt, but by a conscious decision to do better. If you're not going to choose to do better, they're going to railroad you time and time again. They're going to even chase you down and put you in a position where you can't really get out of. And that's the thing. You got to make better decisions. Now, in this situation, we know that somebody spoke up to give some evidence to them in order for them to even hold these mans in an indicted situation. I also told you there's 2 videos they said they have sealed. Now, you guys were regulars at Riva Motorsports. They just accepted your money. Now you're pursuant in this situation of them trying to put you away. So now they're trying to put you away off of evidence they claim to have, and you can't really check them on it because they could claim to have evidence over and over and over, and they're going to try and place you guys in a violent situation and say, look, this guy has committed violent crimes before. This guy was in this courtroom before dealing with a situation on harming another person. This time, because it shows progressive, let's say, violence in a sense where you lost your conscience over and over again, and why should this situation differ? That's very important, because even if you're not linked to it, but you admit it to being in the spot of the incident, or they find evidence to claim you were there during this murder, it's not going to allow you to slip out the situation. It's just going to be more like, oh, okay, this is who he is. That's what he does. This just seems normal. And you don't want that, especially being the stigmatism around black men, especially being the stigmatism around criminals. You have two definite, let's say, strikes against who you are and what you mean. So when this type of stuff happens, you really can't slide out. You really can't say, I wasn't involved in this. I don't do these type of things. It's all going to be down to a lawyer speaking to you or someone showing without a shadow of a doubt you had nothing to do with it. Now, do I think a free lawyer could help and could help you to justify and become better in this situation? Yes, I do think it's possible. But at the same time, I think you need to put in your mind that, look, if I get out this situation, I'm not going to do this, or I change my life in this way. There needs to be a character change in order to allow you deniability and credibility. Those are the two things that they're going to wreck first, because they know evidence is limited. They know that you've been here before, and let alone in a violent crime. Even if you didn't get attempted murder, now it's proceeded to a murder because of your neglect in caring for human life. And that's very important. And we're going to get into those things and the evidence around the situation, but make sure that you guys, if you haven't lawyered up, you learn to lawyer up, and you learn the factors that are involved in the case that could go against you. And by this time, if you don't have a sense of that, it's a little too late. But at the same time, you need to find someone who's willing and ready to defend your credibility. It's all about whether you're a credible witness, a credible person to be talked to, or someone that could be respected in some way, shape, or form beyond what your past speaks about. So my first thing would be to say, find out what's known and find someone who's willing to defend you at any cost and willing to put aside your past and speak for your future. You know who you're rocking with. Subscribe, hit the bell, all rights reserved.